All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MMA edition of the I Don't Know Shit About Boxing show. For all of those MMA fans out there, when you hear something like I don't know shit about boxing or I don't know shit about MMA, you think, why would I listen to this guy then? But the quote and the phrase comes from the late, great Roger Mayweather, uncle and trainer of the great Floyd Mayweather, when he said famously, most people don't know shit about boxing. And I believe it to be applicable to MMA as well. When you think, damn, how often do I think I know shit and I really don't, and I get things wrong? Even more so, I feel like in MMA than boxing. But that being said, that's where we're at, baby. I don't know shit about MMA. So many people, they want to say, "Oh, this is going to happen, XYZ is going to happen." Maybe we should take a step back, take a more humble approach, realize we really don't know nothing about this sport. It's ever evolving, and we'll figure it out together. That being said, if I say something that you don't feel like is correct and you think you know better, go ahead, voice your opinion, please. Comment below. I'll put it up on the screen and we'll get going. But before we do, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. I appreciate it so much. And we're going to get right into it, baby. We're talking today about UFC 281, Madison Square Garden, New York City. Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. Let's go ahead and just break this down. This is one of the things I really love about UFC is how organized they are and how structured. Like, look at straight up on the website, especially doing something like this, I can go ahead and instantly post to this. You know what I mean? So, that being said, Saturday, November 12th, we are 1 day away. Everyone's weighed in. I'm pretty sure everything looks good. I'm going to go all the way down to the early prelims, and we're going to start here. You know what I mean? So, what fights am I looking out for, right? Let's see. How many fights do we have on the early prelims? So, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, I cannot believe she's still fighting. The odds look pretty similar. They're both favorites somehow. We look at these Montel Jackson's, Julio Arce. That could be a good one. I mean, these are just fights. It's one of those things where in UFC, a lot of the times you don't even need to know who they are, and it ends up being a good fight. So I don't really have much to say about these. I'm looking forward to some good fights, though. That's really all that needs to be said about that. And then we go into the actual undercard, the prelims, not the early prelims. So we got Andre Petrosky. Molly McCann is facing Aaron Blanchfield, right? So we all know Molly McCann, Meatball Molly. This is going to be a good one. She's 13-4 against a girl who's 9-1. Their last fights were both wins. This is more of an even fight, I would say. And this is a flyweight bout. So this is a girl she's being listed at 135. I'm sorry that I don't really know much about Aaron Blanchfield. You'll have to forgive me about that, but maybe we could go and look into. She's on a 6-fight win streak. Damn. So if Molly beats her, bro, this is legit. This is a legit win. She beat Maverick. Damn. She beat this girl, Aldrich. Okay, so she's had 3 fights in the UFC. She's 3-0 in the UFC. Damn. That's a huge fight for Meatball. If Meatball could win, I'm assuming they're not both going to be wearing green. But if Meatball could win, shout out to her. That's a huge fight, man. I'm really looking forward to that one. We have Dominic Reyes versus Ryan Spann. It's crazy how Dominic Reyes, I want to say he's on a 3-fight losing streak, right? He lost to John Jones. He lost to Prochazka. He lost to John Jones. Questionable fight. I thought he lost. Lost to Blachowicz. Got murked. Lost to Prochazka. Got murked. So now he's coming back after a year and a half off. He's going to fight Ryan Spann. This would be a good fight to see if he still got it or if he's just going to be doing Toyota Tire commercials for the rest of his days. Let's see. Brad Riddell versus Renato Moicano. That's going to be a good fight. Moicano always is there to fight. Brad Riddell, obviously out of the New Zealand camp. That's going to be a good fight as well. And now we're getting into the main card, undercard. We got Dan Hooker out of New Zealand versus Claudio. I'm pretty sure this is the guy with all the leg locks and shit. So it's one of those things where, No offense to Dan Hooker, but I don't really go into it expecting much out of Dan Hooker anymore, which I feel kind of bad saying that. But after that war with Poirier and then after getting knocked out by Chandler, it's just like, he had that one win, wasn't the most exciting. And then he got murked by Islam. He got murked by Arnold Allen. If you ask my wife, which my wife is pretty savage, but she's like, Dan Hooker sucks. He needs to retire. I'm like, damn, babe. He's a nice guy, but sometimes it's like that. So that being said, hopefully Dan Hooker can get back, but we'll see. Then we got Frankie Edgar, his final fight with the organization versus Chris Gutierrez. Another one that Frankie hasn't looked too great lately. Former a bantamweight bout, former lightweight champion, which is nuts. Yeah, you know what I mean? We'll see what happens with Frankie. He's an underdog in this. I just hope he doesn't get murked. I'm afraid that he's already kind of hung it up before he's hung it up. You know what I mean? He's just kind of going out there to make the walk. Hopefully he gives it his all. Hopefully he wins. That would be a great send-off. You know what I'm saying? But now we get into the business, as I would say. Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. We got number 2 versus, what did it say Chandler was? Number 6, number 5. A top 5 matchup. Really, it would be crazy if they put this fight as 5 rounds, but pretty sure it's 3, which might benefit Michael Chandler. Dustin Poirier, I think the big questions for him, and something Michael Chandler brought up earlier in the build-up to this fight being signed, was that he feels that Dustin Poirier is 1 foot out the door. Feels that Dustin Poirier is talked about 170. He's already had his second shot at the title. That he came up short with that. But who knows? Now that Islam Makhachev is the champion, you have a new person as champion. This is one of those fights where obviously he said that he was going to fight Volkanovski, but I'm already seeing rumors and memes and all sorts of shit saying, oh, if he doesn't, he might not fight Volkanovski yet, which would be pretty fucked. But if he doesn't fight Volkanovski, yes, he might fight the winner of Poirier versus Chandler. Personally, I think Chandler has the best style that could possibly beat Islam with the wrestling and whatnot, but who knows? You know what I mean? Because when we saw Poirier, that might just be another Poirier versus Khabib. And we saw what happened. And then how he got dominated by Charles on the ground too. Wasn't very good. But as far as all of that aside, this fight right here, this fight is the shit. This fight is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most. Big Michael Chandler fan. The thing is, though, Dustin also called him Michael Chandler. And I can't say that he's wrong, man. You saw Michael Chandler's last Bellator fight. He got dropped by Pitbull. Just it's like out of the blue, like kind of on the back of the head. But it was a well-timed overhand right counter on the jab. Drop Michael Chandler, and you know what I mean? So there's something off there. And then in his UFC fights, 3 out of the 4 fights, he's been dropped. One of the things that I say, especially the first one against Charles, and then some of the ones against Gaethje, and then when he fought Tony, he got dropped too. But he likes to do something which in boxing we call taking a picture. And the reason why he does this is Josh Thompson even said that Michael Chandler's fallen in love lately with his power. You saw where he got dropped, and then once he switched up to the wrestling, he changed the fight with that Tony fight. You can't lose to a guy on a 3-fight lose streak like Tony. So he switched it up. He threw the wrestling in there, but he had to, you know what I mean? Because like Josh said, he's fallen in love lately with his power. So he'll throw those huge shots. And then, like I said, in boxing, we call it taking a picture. You throw the huge shot, and then you try to admire for a split second, what you've done or what you've thrown, instead of being more defensive, backing up, maybe taking a little bit off your shots so that you don't overcommit. And that way you could be defensively mindful on the back out or the retreat. But that's not something that we've seen out of Michael Chandler. You know what I mean? He threw that big kick against Tony. Boom. Tony was right there to counter him. He threw a big right hand against Charles. Charles just boom, left hand there to counter him because he's taking the picture. You know what I mean? He throws a big shot against Gaethje. Gaethje throws the other guy. Boom. He's taking the picture after his shots because he's throwing everything into these shots because he's in love with his power. So that being said, we'll see what happens. Dustin Poirier has that good counter left hook or right hook from the southpaw stance. That might clip him as well. If I'm leaning a certain direction on who's going to win this fight, I would say I would put money on Chandler, or I would put money on Poirier. I want Michael Chandler to win, though. I think Michael Chandler has a better chance at beating the champion. That being said, let's go ahead and get into Zhang versus Carla. I think I spelled her name wrong. I did, but that's because who cares? You know what I mean? This is one of those fights where Carla really needs to show up and show that she's not a paper champion, because that last fight was so ass dog shit. No offense, Carla, but everybody's saying it, so I'm not the only one, against Zhang, who really we should be running back a trilogy, a 2-win trilogy for Carla versus Rose, but that's going to be a hard sell considering that how shit that fight was. So you have to get somebody in there who's exciting like Zhang. And then if she wins the title back, what do you do? Zhang versus Thug on a 2-fight, Zhang being the champion and then Thug being the challenger, even though Thug has 2 wins over Zhang. It's a fucking clown world that we're living in. In the strawweight division, it's bringing it's leeching excitement from the division. I'll put it like that. And then we get into our main fight. We got Izzy versus Alex, the trilogy, but in a different rule set. So these guys have already fought twice before. I'm sure you guys have heard this story to nauseum, but let me explain for those who don't know shit about MMA. Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira have already fought twice in kickboxing. The first one, Alex Pereira won a decision. The second one, here's something I'll bring up that's different than what you hear from a lot of people. From most people that you hear is you just hear about the knockout. Alex knocked out Israel cold, and he did. He knocked him out cold, bro. It was nuts. But if you watch that whole fight, and Izzy even says, watch that fight, look what was happening. Izzy was piecing Alex up, and then eventually Alex caught him. So this is one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, you were piecing him up, but you got knocked out. So what? So what are you going to do with this MMA? I think the biggest question is, do we see Izzy shoot on Alex? Alex is somebody is a striker, but he's been training jiu-jitsu and wrestling with the former light heavyweight champ, Glover Teixeira. This is a very interesting fight. It's crazy to see how this one's going to go. We got 23-1 versus 6-1. But Alex Pereira already has Izzy's soul, piece of it, on his belt as a notch. So what do you guys think is going to happen? Let me know below. This is interesting. I mean, I could talk all day about hypotheticals and whatnot, but this is just one that it's really going to come down to, damn. Like, I'm looking forward to this. It's either going to be good or it's going to be not. And I feel like there's a big chance that it's not, because Alex is also pretty slow too. He doesn't just come out and throw crazy shit. Like, he looks for that shot that he can land, and then he lands it. And then it's violent very quickly. It goes from this to boom, violent. And Israel's somebody who's content. We've seen over the past couple decisions, he's content with point fighting for the night. So I don't know. Does he have a chip on his shoulder from the criticism? It's kind of hard to differ from that when you're facing somebody who knocked you out cold. The risk is very high in this. So anyways, that being said, man, I don't know shit about MMA. Let me know what you think. I think official picks is I'm gonna go Claudio. I'm gonna go Gutierrez. I'm gonna go Zhang Wei Li. She'll be new champ. I think Poirier might beat Chandler, and then I would say Izzy by decision. I think Izzy's gonna piece him up. So, what do you think? I might completely be wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not holding nothing on those predictions, but like I said, down here, you see it popping up. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, I don't know shit about MMA. I'm Ray the Business. We out.